Welcome to the Rockin Rich Lynch on the Radio Show. I'm your host, Rockin Rich Lynch, inviting you to join me as we discover great new music by bands and artists from around the world. With interviews, music news and reviews, great prizes, and a whole lot more. Visit us online today at soundpress.net for great music promotion and publicity. Hi, this is Rockin Rich Lynch, and you're listening to the very best of Rockin Rich Lynch on the radio. We recently moved our operations from the New York, New Jersey market to Nashville, Tennessee, and we are now looking for a production and broadcast partner in the region to take the radio show to new heights. If you're a band, musician, solo act, or represent a musical project in any genre, please visit soundpress.net and our new site, musiccitynashville.net, to learn how we can help get your message to the world. Now, please enjoy this great interview from our archives. The man we are about to speak with is the lead singer and guitarist for the power trio that topped many of the best new band lists in 2014. He's had stints in Poison and Mr. Big, and he's just dropped his 20th solo album titled Cannibals. It's truly an honor to welcome the very busy and the extremely talented Richie Kotzen to the show today. Richie, welcome.
How you doing?
I'm good. So, Richie, you've been at this quite some time. You first joined Poison at the age of 21 in 1991. But does it feel to you that the spotlight is shining a little brighter on you right now at this point in your career in 2015?
Yeah, I guess I could say that. I mean, it's definitely a roller coaster ride having been doing this for so long. I kind of run the gamut, from the, success with a major band, and then maybe kind of falling into the shadows a little bit, and having signed major record deals to having the record not even being released. I mean, it's been a real crazy ride since I released the first record in 1989. But I guess, yeah, you could say that things are going well right now, so I'm very happy about that.
Well, one of the reasons the spotlight's shining really bright is you joined the Winery Dogs in 2013. The debut was highly acclaimed. You were called one of the best new bands of that period of time. I understand that the writing sessions for the next album have just begun. When you guys sat down with the overwhelming success of the debut, was there a discussion about the direction or the tone that you guys want to put forth on the next album? And did anyone bring up the specter of the sophomore jinx?
Not at all, none of that. And, the vibe was very mellow. We actually got together last week and threw around some ideas. And we got quite a few things that we worked up, and I'm actually leaving tomorrow to go to Japan with my solo band to finish off my tour. When I come back, the plan is for me to go in and review everything and basically take these ideas to the next level and turn them into songs. But there's no real pressure there, I mean, we're going to write what we're going to write. When we play together, we sound like what we sound like, and thankfully it resonated with people on the first record, and we're just kind of doing pretty much the same thing we did on the first record. It's the same approach, so hopefully we get the same result.
Yeah, now that's really, you said a bunch of interesting things there. I want to back up and say that the website for Richie is RICHIEKOTZEN.com. You can find out all about his current activities. The new album Cannibals is out right now on the Headroom Inc. label. You can pick that up over there at Amazon, all the places you would go to get music. I want to get back to the new Winery Dogs album, but you did bring up something there, and it is kind of cliche, Richie, but you are very big in Japan, and how is it that so many artists have to go outside of the USA to find their most fervent fans?
First of all, I have to correct you, because the idea that Richie Kotzen is big in Japan is simply a myth. It's not true. What has happened to me in the early 90s, or mid-90s rather, I had a deal on Geffen. I put a record out back in 94 that was just squashed in the United States, but in Japan, MCA promoted it, and it opened doors there for me in the 90s where I was able to do direct deals with the labels over there and finance my records. But the reality is I haven't been able to tour in Japan since 2006 when I opened for the Rolling Stones. Everything changed And so I started focusing my energy with my solo career on other markets like Europe, which became a primary market for me. And it really all started out of Italy. I was going over there, I don't know how many times a year, and that spawned out through the rest of Europe. And at the same time, Latin America became strong for me. And all this really happened with the situation with the internet and how easy it was for me to get my music to people that were interested in it. But the fact of the matter is that I don't really know how this happened or why it happened, but I've really been absent from Japan for a long time. And that's why going back there now is so important to me, to be able to kind of revive my profile over there. And obviously, I think really having done the Winery Dog record really helped me in that particular territory. But probably my biggest markets up until now have really been Europe and Latin America.
Cool. Richie Kotzen picking back up where he left off over there in the Far East. So good luck when you get over there. And how was that? Didn't you open up for Kiss as well in Japan?
No, I didn't open for Kiss. I opened up for the Rolling Stones in 2006. We did like 5 or 6 shows together, and that whole thing was a very surreal thing. I mean, I didn't really believe it was going to happen until after I did the first show, and I can remember I didn't tell anyone I was doing it until it actually happened, because I was just so worried that I was going to get there and someone was going to change their mind and say, "Oh, no, we can't have you open up for us." But it happened. It worked out, and it was an amazing experience.
Cool. That sounds like an incredible time. Now let's get back to that Winery Dogs album. And like you said, the pressure isn't really on you too much. Is that in part because the nature of the music industry has changed in the last 20 years? The expectations might not be as grand for as far as moving a certain amount of numbers. I mean, is there a certain benchmark you'd like to see as far as sales?
No, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I honestly, I guess I just don't think in those terms. I mean, I think in the terms of the satisfaction for me comes in the artistic satisfaction. And I've said this a million times. I just don't ever want to be in a situation where I'm mad at music. And so that means that I need to have that creative freedom to do what it is that I've done for my whole life, which is go in the studio, write songs, go out, perform songs that I've written live in front of people, and I've been thankful to have done that as a solo artist for, since 1989, and I've also been lucky enough to have done that in bands where although I'm playing and writing with other people, I'm still being creative and I'm being myself. So that's the most important focus for me. If that resonates with the public, great. If it doesn't resonate, then it doesn't, and I can always still do it. I can always play music, and I can, I don't want to ever be mad at music. I don't want to be playing. I'd stop playing music. If I had to play music I didn't love, I just wouldn't do it. Life is too short. There's so many things you can do, and music to me is an art form, and so I just want to be true to myself when I play music. So I can't think about sales or anything other than, do I like what I'm doing?
Hey, Richie, I can relate only a little bit, because in the last year I became an independent artist myself, and I've started releasing music. And, besides a few family members and some friends buying the songs, it doesn't really seem like people are pulling the string on a 99-cent download, and it's kind of frustrating.
Well, I think, that's the thing you have to decide, though, because the reality is, the word artist is used very loosely. If someone's an artist, then they're concerned with creating their art. And that's the beginning and the end. Where you get in trouble is when you want other people to acknowledge that you're an artist, or you want other people to celebrate what you've done. That's where you get in trouble. And so if you can separate that, and that becomes something that doesn't matter, and if it does matter, well, the attitude is, well, that's nice. I appreciate that. But, if that's your motivation to make something and be creative and then turn around and have other people celebrate it, then you're going to, myself included, set yourself up for emotional trauma.
Right. And who needs that?
That's right.
Although I do want to get back to that in just a second. Now, one of my dear friends is named Pat. She has become one of your big fans in the last couple of years with your work with the Winery Dogs. She got to see you. She's starting to buy up the Richie Kotzen back catalog. You know, really loves your music. The first thing she wanted to know is, what do you prefer? Do you prefer playing one of the Fender products better, the Strat or the Tele, over one another?
Oh, well, yeah, she's talking about my signature models. I have a Telecaster, obviously, and a Strat signature model. You know, I go through phases, and I remember in the early 90s, I was in the Telecaster phase, and then I moved into the Strat phase, and back and forth, and now I'm back to playing the Telecaster. But on my new record, Cannibals, that I just released, I'm doing both. You can hear on the opening track, Cannibals, it's clearly my Telecaster, and then on the next song, in an instant, the main guitar there is a Strat. So, you know, it's a tonality thing. It depends on the sound you want. The reason why I tend to gravitate more towards the Telecaster is that it's more of what I would call a blank canvas. So Strat's a beautiful guitar, super comfortable to play, but if you have the Strat pickups in there, the single coil pickups and wired in a traditional way, that's a very specific sounding guitar, and you can do a lot with it, but I can always identify a Strat, whereas a Telecaster, to me, seems to have a little more transparency, and so for the way I like to play it, it's just the ultimate guitar for me, and that's why I tend to gravitate towards the Tele.
The great Richie Kotzen is on the phone with us right now, RICHIEKOTZEN.com. The new album is Cannibals. Richie, since you mentioned it, I'm going to bump up the questions about the album. 20 albums, that is an amazing achievement. We did talk a little bit about sales, and it's something that you don't want to harp on or think about too much. But with your increasing fame in the Winery Dogs, have you noticed a bump up at all in the in your back catalog sales?
Yeah, of course. You know, I mean, anytime you do something that is noteworthy to the public, you know, you're going to grab people that weren't paying attention, and you're going to see results from that. So that's been very cool. And you know, so far the Cannibals record has been received very well. I released a video for a song on that record at the end of last year. The song's called "You," and it's a song that I wrote with my daughter, and I was very happy with that. It's one of my most proud moments. It was to write a song with my daughter and then be able to make that video. And we also released a video for the lead track Cannibals that shows footage from my solo tour that I did for the last 3 months. And we have 2 more videos we're going to release for the record that are coming up. I'm not planning on touring right now for this record because I've just toured so much over the last 2 years between solo tours and Winery Dog tours that when I come back from Japan on this particular run, I really want to take some time off and focus on finishing writing these songs that we worked on for the Winery Dogs. And the next time I go out touring will be with the Winery Dogs. So it's kind of a little bit of a transition happening, but I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, Richie, have you done any of those internet-only shows where people can log in and watch you in a live setting?
No, I haven't done them yet. And, you know, a few years back, there was a company that does those, and I was talking to them about doing it, and the timing just never worked out. But, man, that just seems like such a cool thing, you know, where people can kind of see you literally in your environment. You know, like for me, if I did it, I would do it straight from my studio, you know, and I think that would be awesome. I know Daryl Hall has that live from Daryl's house, which is really cool. So I think that's definitely a cool thing. I haven't done it yet, but it's something that I would like to do at some point.
Yeah, Daryl, that's like 30 minutes from my house where I'm talking to you from right now. You would be an excellent guest on that program. Let's send that out to Daryl Hall right now. Give him a call. Give Richie Kotzen a call. But I do want to talk.
You know what else I got to tell you? He grew up apparently like literally 8 miles down the road from where I grew up, and I guess at some point his parents came into my father's store and bought carpet from my dad. So there's kind of a funny little connection there. But I'm a big fan of him and Hall & Oates and everything he's done. So that would be awesome to be on that show.
Right, because you hail from the Pennsylvania region. You two share some of that love for the blue-eyed soul, and that that gets me to my next question. Stylistically, you have acknowledged that you draw from a lot of different influences. You got rock, jazz, blues, R&B, soul. That's all represented in your music. My wife and I have been listening to the new album, and we also have been on a kick really recently of watching movies from the 1970s, and we just watched Saturday Night Fever just the other day. And when track 5 came on off the new album, it sounded like something that could have been on the dance floors in the 70s a little bit.
Oh, you talking about the song "Come On Free"?
Yeah, "Come On Free." Yes, sir.
Yeah, that song, it's so funny, man. That track has existed on my hard drive, I gotta say, for at least 10 years. That I've had that song. Finished, recorded, done. And I never really knew how to present that. And it's something that I always liked, and it's a part of what, of what I do and my influences and all that, but I never knew how to put it out. And I went back, I found it, I did a remix of it, and actually updated it a little bit at the end. I was playing it for my friends who are all here from Brazil, and they started doing this little chant at the end, so I was like, man, that's cool, so we added that. But other than that and remixing the song, it's pretty much unchanged from what it was back then. But somehow, I was like, you know what, man, I'm just going to put this on this record, because I think it finally fits somewhere. But that's actually an old recording. I don't think a lot of people realize that. Right.
And well, a lot of the songs from this record apparently have come from the you're pulling together tracks from a large portion of your demos from the last decade or so. But
there's kind of combinations of that. I talked about that in the bio, and songs come in many different forms. Some songs take many years to write, and other songs are written in 10 minutes.
Another track I liked, another guest we had on the show was just recently Doug Pinnick of King's X and KXM fame, a great guy, a very talented person, and you're sharing a duet with him, "I'm All In." Like that one a whole lot too.
Yeah, well, that came about in an interesting way. I was at a friend of mine's house at a barbecue, and Doug was there, and he was talking about the Winery Dogs and how much he liked that record. And he said, we should do something together. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that would be great. So I went home, and I was working on my, the Cannibals record. And that song was the one I was working on. And I thought, this would be the one, man, for us to, kind of sing, do like a back and forth call and answer type thing. So I played him the track. He liked it, came over to the house, and just killed it. He did a great job. And he's a great guy, great singer, and I hope to do more work with him.
Well, Richie, you're talking a little bit about some of your inspiration for songwriting, and I mentioned my friend Pat and some of her other lady friends were talking about your music as far as what they've been able to draw from it, from immersing themselves in it so far. Their impression was that you've had to go through a bunch of things to get some of those great songs. It sounds like a lot of your inspiration is drawn from relationships that you might have had in your life. Where else do you find inspiration for your songs?
Well, it comes from everywhere. Mainly, when you talk about lyric writing and stuff, I mean, my lyrics are more conversational, I would say, for lack of a better term. And it really does come from life experience, but sometimes it's not necessarily my experience directly. I mean, just because I'm writing about something doesn't necessarily mean I'm writing about me. It could be a situation that I've observed, or sometimes even, creating a character in your mind, and writing about that. There's so many ways that lyrics come about. But one thing I definitely don't do on purpose is I very rarely or ever, dissect or discuss lyrics and origin, only because even as a fan of music, lyrics hit me, other people's lyrics, and my lyrics hit other people in ways where, you interpret them how you see them. And so if suddenly the artist breaks down exactly the how and why and where this came from, you run the risk of killing what makes that special to someone else. It's like, oh, yeah, I thought he was writing this about his ex-wife, and he's writing about his dog, that he grew up with. It kind of changes things. So I don't really do that. And I also don't like to analyze where the inspiration comes too much, because sometimes I feel like it'll stop, So, but, I guess on the surface, it's, like I said, my lyrics are more conversational, more, person to person. I'm not writing about, spaceships and aliens,
Well,
I'm writing about people.
Hey, why not? I love spaceships and aliens, but that's another subject matter. It's sort of like my mother, Richie. Early on, the good Catholic that she is, liked "Let It Be" because Paul McCartney mentioning Mother Mary, thinks she was referencing, Mary, Mother of God, when it turns out that he was probably referencing marijuana.
There you go.
So it's all in the interpretation.
Yep.
Let's see. We're talking with Richie Kotzen. The new album Cannibals is out. You can get it over at the website and anywhere you can buy great music online. What's the one thing about Richie Kotzen that fans might be surprised to know?
Surprised to know? Well, in my free time, I enjoy building things with the power tools. I think if I wasn't a musician, I would probably likely be a contractor or maybe even an architect. So in my spare time, I'm constantly doing modifications to my home and that sort of thing. I love architecture, and that's one of my hobbies. And also, I enjoy playing poker. It's a good way to kind of clear my mind and relieve stress. Unless I find myself losing consistently, then that's not a good stress reliever. And what else? I'm also a big basketball fan, so I enjoy going to games. And unfortunately, my team is doing terrible.
So what is that? The Lakers?
Yeah.
See, you can always jump over to the Clippers side.
No.
Jump on the bandwagon.
Actually, I like Golden State, and I like the Atlanta Hawks. They're doing really well, so that's cool.
Hey, Richie, I want to ask you if you're a fan of social media, and I bring this up because getting ready for this interview, I was on your site today, and somebody mentioned something about how you got how your time in Poison came to an end, and it was kind of funny, but it was right there in the comments on your webpage. I'm like, oh, what's that all about? So I did Google's your friend. I did a little Google search, and I found the remnants of a pretty funny story about how possibly your time in Poison came to an end. But it got me to lead to the question, your past is always present on social media. So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, in the beginning, it really I found it to be annoying. I mean, I'm not talking even about my departure from Poison, but just things that I did, like videos, music videos that were, may not have been the best choices, or may have been, at a time where, I wasn't thinking clearly. And, in the old days, that stuff would just be gone and forgotten, and the growth would be realized, and people would see you for what you are in the current time. So in the beginning, it bothered me. But then what has happened as time moved on, I guess I kind of kept doing what I do and growing and evolving. So, the present ends up dwarfing the past. And so the past becomes important for the development of the future. And so it doesn't become a negative for me. It's all positive, because it's a road, it's a path that you take, and I feel like I'm still creative, and I'm still inspired artistically, and I'm able to exercise that. So I'm very much more in the present moment than I've ever been in my life. So it's anything that maybe 10 years ago, my past before that, so 20 years back, would have been the past from 10 years from now back, I would have been bothered by previous choices. But now I'm not, because there's so much out there, and like I said, it's like a roller coaster, and it's like a graph. And if you look at that graph, creatively, artistically, I'm at the highest point that I've ever been on that graph. So I'm very satisfied. And I'm talking about an internal graph. I'm not talking about an external graph. So I'm very happy and very satisfied, and I have no regrets, and I'm excited about where I'm at right now.
Yeah, man, you got a lot of great stuff going on, and your sound and your style and your talent and just the excitement that you bring to music and your craft, it really is intoxicating, Richie, and it's so good that people are finding out about you now, because the minute people find out about you and hear your stuff, they're hooked. So it's cool. You're like rock and roll, you're like the rock and roll fix at this point.
Wow, well, thank you for that. That's a nice perspective.
So what's the best show you've ever seen as a fan?
The best show I've ever seen as a fan would have to be Bootsy Collins at the House of Blues.
Very good. I don't even know who Bootsy Collins is. I'm going to have to do a Google search on that.
I'm not going to tell you. You can Google him.
No, I definitely will. Now, I just have three more, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing sometimes when I have to sit here and admit that I don't know people. But I got 10,000 independent artists in my attic that people have never heard of, and my mind is.
Hey man, I'm the worst with musical history, man. There's so many people I don't know that I should know. I try to avoid any of those conversations because I always come out looking completely absent.
So, Richie, I got three more, and then I'll let you go if that's okay.
Okay.
I read that you're utilizing the modern day technique of getting song ideas and singing them into a cell phone. I started doing that myself recently. I can really relate, and it's really a blessing of the modern age to have that technology.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I opened up an old cabinet in my house, and out fell one of those handheld cassette machines, the standard size cassette, and that's what I used to throw ideas on. And then you'd have to flip the tape over, and then I'd end up with all these friggin' tapes, stored. And I don't want to throw them away because they're ideas, but I never go back and listen to them. But now I can just put this right in my recorder on the phone, which everybody else is probably doing, and it's just great. It's convenient, and I still forget things that are there. I have hundreds of things there that are nonsense. Some of them turn into songs, but at least I don't have them physically somewhere where they're taking up space. So I love that.
Yeah, and one of the regrets that I've had over the course of my life is having, maybe some good ideas, some verses, some choruses that, maybe I sing in the shower, never write it down, and it's forgotten into the ether forever.
That happens all the time, and you know what else happens? Sometimes coming out of a sleep. Like there's that part of your sleep where you're sleeping, but you're kind of there. And I've written songs and documented them because I force myself to wake up and document them, and they've become songs. But oftentimes, I'm just like, I'll remember it tomorrow, and I never do. And so you think about in that mode, you lose a lot of songs. And the thing that happens, that's when your mind is like kind of in this weird state where you're kind of awake, kind of asleep, you're relaxed, but you're kind of dreaming, and it's a creative spot to be in. The problem is when you latch onto an idea in that state, to force your body, it might be 3, 4 in the morning or whatever, to get up and document it. You got to do that because you're gonna lose something if you don't.
Yeah, that's the tough part about it. Now, I also read that you recently started working with a theremin. Are you still messing around with that device?
No, I haven't. I did a song last year called "Walk with Me" that was on a record I put out called "The Essential Richie Kotzen," which was like a compilation record. But that song was new. And that's the first time I ever played a theremin. I bought it because I heard that playing the lead instrument in the solo section. So rather than doing a guitar solo, I did a theremin solo. And then I ended up putting that on a couple other songs. Like it's in the song "You," which is on the Cannibals record, and you can see me playing it in the video. And then it's also in the background of the song "Cannibals." But that was it. I just used it on those three things. Maybe it'll appear once we start recording the Winery Dog record, but I haven't really touched it since I played. The last song I played it on was actually Cannibals, so it's just been kind of sitting in a corner since then.
Now, it's a cool device. I've seen Joe Bonamassa use it on every show that I've seen of his, and it's sort of a quirky kind of novelty item. I don't think it can ever become a virtuosa at the theremin, but it adds an interesting background kind of spooky vibe to certain things.
Oh, it does. It's a very difficult instrument to play. There's a video that came with it. And there's a woman, when I received the package, and there's a woman that she's like a master of it. I can't think of her name right now, of course, naturally, but she plays it like it's a violin. Does classical, arpeggios on it. It's unbelievable.
I'm going to look that up. I'm sure you can just YouTube. I got a press release about a theremin specialist recently that I kind of ignored. I meant to get back to it and didn't do that. Now, one other thing, the dog camp reconvenes in 2015 with round 2 taking place, I believe, is that July 27th through the 31st at the Full Moon Resort in Big Indian, New York.
Yeah, that's right.
How did your experience hosting the Rock School suit you?
It was fun. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was kind of, in the beginning, stressful because I had to put together a curriculum, so to speak, and I wasn't sure what that even meant. And I came up with this idea of doing this thing called Discovery Rooms. So we had open rooms where, I would have a room open, Billy would have one, and Mike would have one. We'd have them all at the same time, and so they would be in there all day. And basically the idea is the attendees can just kind of wander around the camp and kind of walk into a room at any point and get caught up in a conversation or a demonstration. And it was very casual that way. So we probably will do a similar format. We also brought in some other players to add some different color to the entire experience. So we've got a guitar player, a friend of mine by the name of Dave Wood, who's a fantastic jazz player, and so he was able to add something, and also Mike Bennett and Dylan Wilson, the three of those guys play together in a jazz format, so they did a concert that showed a whole other kind of thing, and this time we're going to have those guys as well, and then we're working on some other names, just so we have a broad scope of artists, not just the three of us, meaning the Winery Dogs, but we've got some other people in there that can do some other things that we don't really do. So I think it's going to be there's going to be a lot of value there.
Yeah, Richie, it sounds fun. And, I know you got a big year ahead of you, RICHIEKOTZEN.com. Richie, thank you for talking to us today. Are you still doing what the devil says to do?
Yeah, not anymore. Not so much. I'm trying to behave.
Very good. Very good. Well, have fun out there this year in 2015, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again sometime down the road.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Rockin' Rich Lynch on the Radio Show, part of the SoundPress.net radio network. Remember, if you're a band or artist looking for promotion, or if you'd like to sponsor this show or add this program to your station, please get in touch with us today at SoundPress.net.